What's happening, everybody? All right. What's up, guys? Welcome. Welcome to this special live stream. I'm Jonathan White, and I'm here to help you master sexual energy so you can create an epic life for yourself. Who do we got here? Money Mitch, what's up, man? Mr. Fantastic, Perfect Loop, training and retraining, training and retaining. I like it. What's up, guys? Oh, pull up the Instagram feed as well. Here we go. All right. You guys hear me? Loud and clear? Fantastic. So today, first of all, it's been a few months since I've gone live. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a busy year. It's been a busy summer. I'll have some life updates for you guys after I talk about the subject at hand that we have today. But we're going to be talking about semen retention and spiritual alchemy. Okay? Because here's the thing: sexual kung fu is about more than just sex. Sex is an important part, and it's one of the biggest. Basically, having an improper sex life and sexual experience is one of the greatest drains on a man's vitality, as well as his sense of purpose and direction in the world. And so, but sexual kung fu is about basically we're using sexual energy as a fuel for personal growth, for spiritual growth, to find your purpose, to get out of just like this mundane survival consciousness and into elevation. Because here's the thing: we're more than just these physical beings. Like there's, we are infinite beings. We are expanded beings that we're beyond just this physical life that we're living in. And one of the biggest challenges people have in the modern world is that they're so stuck in the matrix. They're living in a survival response. They're living in a state of fear, a state of worry, and it's just like, I need to get food, I need to make money, I need to get sex. And it's like scratch the itches and just get around, right? And so it doesn't help that, we live in, let's face it, we live in a bit of a control system that is programmed to keep us in this state of animalistic survival mode so that we're easily controlled. It is what it is. So I want to talk more about some kind of the bigger picture of the spiritual path of sexual kung fu and sexual mastery, and especially like why it's important as a man to not just waste your gene, to waste your semen, your sexual energy, because this is your creative potential. It is the energy that you have to create with it, to create with. And if you're just dispelling it, just dissipating it constantly, you're wasting yourself. It's drying up your willpower. It's drying up your clarity and your ability to focus your intent and to create what it is that you wish to create. What's up, Nathan? Nathan Kuroko, what's up, man? From Chile. Says MOM course, multi-orgasmic man course, changed my life. And as you said, it pushed everything over the edge. Many blessings. Thank you for sharing this life-changing knowledge. Excellent, Nathan. Glad to hear it, brother. And thanks for tuning in. Okay, Daniel Carrion, what's up? So I've got some interesting things on these diagrams here. We're gonna get into that. All right. So here's the thing. Okay, we got some questions. I'm gonna get to questions after this initial little teaching. So as I just said, we're living in this matrix of physical reality. It's a system with certain parameters, and people are so polarized. Because here's the thing: you enter this world new and fresh. Everything's brand new. As a young child, as a baby, you're pure neutral force. You're pure, just like, what is this? What is that? Pure openness, pure curiosity. And as we go through life, we get ingrained with programming, with conditioning. We start to believe this so that we can't believe that. Like, I'm right, they're wrong. I can't, I'm sorry, like my political views are different for you, so like you have to be my enemy. We just get super polarized. We get stuck in these rigid patterns. And when this becomes excessive, we develop diseases and we die. That's a lot of people's life, okay? That's most people's life on planet Earth. So here's the thing. No one, very, very rarely, people connect to their original nature. You could say their soul, their true inner nature. You could say connecting to God, connecting to universe, Tao, whatever the language is. And people are often seeking this outside of themselves. A lot of people are on a spiritual path. I know most of you guys are on a spiritual path. That's fantastic. But a lot of people, they're seeking outside of themselves. They're like, well, this person has the connection, so like I need them, and then I need to get through them, or God's this like being above me, and I pray up to him, please don't send me to hell. It's like it's all out here, right? And it's because of our programming. We're so programmed to be stuck in our sensory perceptions, and everything is out here. So heaven must be up there, hell must be down there. It's all an illusion. All of it's an illusion. Your connection to source is inside of you. It's within you. It's within your own body. Pretty cool. But and this is the problem: is people are so distracted they never reestablish that connection. We're born with it, but it gets conditioned out of us. So it takes time, it takes focus, and it takes discipline, and it takes to reel yourself out of the external world just a little bit and focus on going within. Okay, so one of the goals of we're talking about Daoist internal alchemy here, which is a system I've trained in for many years. And it's kind of like, this is where sexual kung fu leads you to, all right? It's like the most important foundations and the main things I'm talking about through these social media platforms is like getting your sexual life under control, all right? As a man, stop wasting your energy through excessive ejaculation, overcoming all this like shame and trauma around, feeling embarrassed about your body and having this unhealthy relationship to women. And allowing sex to be something that nourishes you, using that as a fuel, the energy that you cultivate during sex, that powerful burst of jing, using that to fuel your spiritual growth, and as well as just your general day-to-day creativity. And so one of the focal points, I think this is a common thing of any spiritual path, is like getting back to original nature. Because there's the original nature, then there's our acquired nature, which I was just talking about. It's the conditioning that's been put upon us. And it creates all those limitations. Like, I have limited beliefs about who I can be. Like, well, my dad said I would never be anything. He must be right. So I just got to get a job and make a little bit of money. Or having a lack mindset around money, for example. These are all like these acquired perceptions, these acquired belief systems, limitations. It's just a belief. It's not true. But when you choose to wear that as like your filter of reality, it's like you put on these glasses and that's what you see now. That's the life you live. And you can change this. And this is for me, the most valuable part of this work is I've made some changes in my life, in my, both my belief system, in my personality, the way I interact with the world, the way I relate to myself, the way I relate to women. I've made some changes in these realms that I wouldn't have believed were possible 10 years ago. And so it's about, because all these things exist as patterns in our energy body. They start to become blockages. All these filters and perceptions, because again, we come into this world brand new. Our energy is flowing freely, and we're incredibly open. Just a free flow of life force information through our bodies and our minds. We're incredibly open, but that becomes a little bit intense when you live in a world that's not the most harmonious. So we start to develop these constrictions to kind of make ourselves smaller, to fit into what our parents tell us we should be, what our teachers, what society, blah, 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 tells us we should be. We contract and we tense up and we put ourselves in this little box. You're like, okay, please love me. Please give me attention. And so when we start to unwind these limitations, this is where we start to reach our true potential. And this isn't always it's not always a smooth path, because you have to kind of face these layers of constriction and imbalance that you're holding within yourself, But the rewards are you truly become superhuman doing this work. Like, people are so fragmented in their consciousness. I'm going to talk about this in another way soon, but people are so fragmented that like there's so much resistance. There's the working with having like self-doubt every day, having these like negative beliefs, having these like the ways that you talk negatively to yourself, like you'll never be able to do this. No, you can't afford that. No, you won't be able to do this. No, they couldn't possibly like you. Like, I'm curious, how many of you guys have that kind of like self-dialogue on a day-to-day basis? I definitely did for a lot of my life, and I still find myself sometimes experiencing as well. So this is just it's the limitations of others that you chose to put upon yourself. And the good news is you can just let it go. All right, but bring it back to semen retention. Okay, this is our fuel, basically. In sexual kung fu, semen retention is kind of just a given. It's a given that you're not ejaculating frequently because you need the fuel of your jing, your vital essence, for this process. And it's important that you learn to have sex without ejaculating because sex is very valuable. Sex is beneficial. It's a fantastic human experience. And sex is also a way that you generate energy. You generate energy with your partner, and you can put that energy into use, fueling your creativity. You can also fuel your internal practice with it. Like the energy you generate through sex, you can then work with and use to like blow past some blockages. So some of the blockages you have, these patterns of holding yourself back and emotional traumas, whatever, you're often using a lot of energy to hold them in place. Especially like some of your deepest blocks are often being held with a lot of energy. So you have to match that energy to break past them. And that's one of the benefits of sex and orgasm. Well, proper orgasm, not just ejaculating, but like getting this internal process happening, is it tends to blow these things wide open. So Jing is also your will. It's your willpower. And this relates to the kidney system. In Chinese medicine, the water element, your vitality and your willpower are very much intertwined. And I think that's why so many people in the modern world, they don't have willpower. They have zero will. They have zero willpower. They're easily persuaded to do weird shit. They just kind of go with whatever's they're being bombarded with information from social media and the news and just all this weird societal conditioning. People have no will to have a truly free mind where they can really sit back and be like, what is this information being presented? And like, where is it really coming from? For a lot of people, it's just pure emotional reactivity. Oh, this thing happened, so I'm supposed to feel this way about it, and I'm supposed to attack these people because of this. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's pure reactivity. It's pure emotional reactivity. Very weak willpower. And for men especially, semen retention is all about willpower. Well, you want to bust a nut just because you have, you feel a bit stressed out and you need a release, like it's cool, but you could have a much healthier way of doing it. And so when you're ejaculating every day, you have almost zero willpower because you're depleting your jing, your kidney energy. So your willpower weakens. Once you start retaining, your willpower starts to grow. And it's drip by drip in the beginning. It's a process. But once you reach a certain point with it, like I remember when I was first learning stuff, 2013, 2012, 2013, and to go 4 days without ejaculating was a feat for me. It was a feat because it was just part of my daily schedule. It's like, oh, 7 o'clock, time to rub one off. All right, I need to get some sleep tonight, man. And so to not do that for 4 or 5 days was a bit uncomfortable in a certain sense, just because it had been such a habit. But once I experienced what it was like, because I wasn't just like, oh, I'm not going to ejaculate anymore. That's it. I wanted to have like the non-ejaculatory orgasm experience. That was my main motivator. And when I was walking away from a sexual session, having not ejaculated, I felt incredible. I felt amazing. It's glowing with energy. So it was like that pleasure and that sexual pleasure and orgasmic feeling you get during sexual experiences. Usually it's just gone after you ejaculate, but it was like that stayed with me, that orgasmic quality. I felt it still pulsating in my body as I was like out in the world after having like non-ejaculatory sexual pleasure. I was like, whoa, this is different. I still have the energy. There's still the potential. I could have more. There's no refractory period. So I got kind of hooked on this. And after, it only took a few months for me, maybe starting to like seriously get into this practice. Maybe it was 6, 7, 8 months where it was like, ejaculation is just not something I'm going to choose to do. Like it would still happen occasionally, whether it was like a wet dream or I just accidentally went over the edge, whatever, no big deal. But overall was like, I do not choose for this to be like a primary sexual experience anymore. And it's incredible how much my life changed from that point forward. Like my willpower, my mood, just the overall like quality of my mind became so much more stable, so much more focused. I used to have a hard time focusing on things. You know, I was ADHD sort of stuff. And I'm not going to say I had ADHD because I think it's made up by pharmaceutical companies. They're always making up these diseases so they can sell you fucking pills, which are castrating you and creating all kinds of those side effects. Whole other topic. But anyways, once I started not ejaculating all the time, my focus improved exponentially. Plus, at the same time, I'm training in Qigong. I'm learning to hold my mind and my body for a sustained period of time and really focus. So all these things compounded. And my life dramatically changed. All of a sudden, I began a life of purpose, like very strong purpose and intention, and things really accelerated in my development. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, everything, just incredible development. So I want to talk a little bit about, I wrote this chart, this chart here, maybe like what the hell's going on here? I want to give you a little taste of Daoist cosmology, because we want to see the bigger picture here. We're going to talk about spiritual alchemy and like the process of working with the energy channels and activating your spiritual awareness. We need to have a bit of a map, a bit of a model that we're going to work with here. Some questions, but I'll get to questions. Feel free to put your questions at any time. I will get to them, my friends. Okay, so here's a map. This is a map of this physical reality, the reality that we live in. And I wrote here, Dao operating system. This is the Dao. This is the universe. This is the system that we live in. And I'm not a religious person. I'm not. I'm a very spiritual person, though. And I'm a researcher. I'm a scholar. I am, above all, I'm a practitioner and a cultivator. I've spent countless thousands of hours in meditation, in energy cultivation training, and I've seen some shit, okay? Like, yeah, when I was in my early 20s taking psychedelics, yeah, I had some experiences. Woo, I felt one with God. But it's one thing to like do that from an external substance, which is also kind of taking something from you in the process. It's a whole different thing to like get to these high states of consciousness completely on your own through internal training, which is why I like this path so much. And it's a lot more stable. You can sustain those states and you can access them at will, instead of like, well, I'm going to take a drug and hope it's a good trip, not a bad trip, and hope I still have some kidney energy left at the end. Okay, so we need to understand where we came from to understand how we get back to it. You know what I mean? Talking about connecting with source. So this is the model that the Daoists talk about. And to me, it's almost like a mathematical equation, or like a engineering type thing. We're talking about polarity. Everything's polarity. We are living in an electromagnetic field, a field of life force energy. And so how this field evolved and shaped relates to where we are as a species right now, as far as our consciousness. Like, why are we in such a fucked up planet? I think, why is everything so just absolutely insane in the world right now? I think is the real question. And maybe this will help understand, okay? So in the beginning, there was the Wuji. Well, it's not even in the beginning. It's still there. All this is happening simultaneously. So Wuji, what the Taoists call Wuji, also known as the primordial. It's this space of absolute everythingness and absolute nothingness, complete potential. It's not something you can even like fully know or explain, which is why they call it Wuji, which basically means supreme unknown. It's unknowable, but basically it's everything and nothing, absolute chaos and pure potential, the potential for everything. And for whatever reason, from this system, entered in like a first parameter of some sort of like system, which is known as Tai, which translates to the great oneness. Tai is, a lot of spiritual paths talk about like the state of like oneness. We're all one, we're in the state of oneness, you know, great, fantastic. Well, that's Tai. It's one coherent system. And when I reach this level in meditation practice, this is what it feels like. It feels like incredibly blissful love, and that I am an orgasm. I'm an orgasm and blissful love. I'm swimming this ocean, this massive ocean of love and orgasm, just this oneness. There's no differentiation. This is Tai, okay? So the the nothing or the everything gave birth to the one. From the zero came the one, right? So now we're kind of in this binary system. Tai, this absolute system of oneness, pure neutral force. There's no yin and yang yet. There's no polarity, just pure neutrality. Now, for whatever reason, again, this system of the system of one, this single entity, the single container that was, self-sustained, whatever reason gave birth to polarity, yin and yang. And in the Daoist model, they call us the three pure ones. Sometimes these things have like a deity religious personification, but they're simply fields of energy. So from this system of one, from the number one, split plus and minus, yin and yang. But really it's the one split into two, but it's really the three, because when there's plus and minus, there's also this invisible neutral point between them. That's yuan qi in the Daoist model. So we have the three pure ones, which are pure yin, pure yang, and pure yuan, the neutral lubrication between them. So now we have this system of differentiation, because there's hot, there's cold, because there's up, there's down. These things cannot exist without each other. Yin and yang are not separate. They're just different aspects of, it's a movement is what it is. It's like I move here, then I move there. It's a vibration. It's a vibrational field. It's what a vibration is. It's moving up and down. It's moving directionally, and there's different phases to it. So this is what polarity is. It's movement. It's music, really. It's sound and vibration. We're all just vibration, man. Okay, and now the three further duplicate. Yin and yang split, pure yin, pure yang split into like these other plus minus pairs. So the three split into five, and this is where we get the wuxing, which is the five elements. In Chinese medicine, this is wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And these aren't actually like fixed elements. They're simply phases of movement. So now these five elements give us the system of creation, how the life force moves and expresses and changes states. And these five start to commingle and create, and this leads to what they call in Daoist cosmology is the 10,000 things, which is just, it's everything. So now we're in the world we live in now, where this force that was one split into three, split into five, split into 7, 20, 100,000, millions, basically. And so polarity became so kind of, what's the word here? Maybe diluted in a certain sense. So we're in this world of absolute polarity. Because creation kind of went out, maybe out of control is an interesting word. But anyways, so the goal of Daoist internal alchemy is to reverse this process. So we're polarized, our mind's going in 10,000 different directions at once. We have 10,000 different desires. I want to do this, and that. Well, we got to pull back a little bit, all right? And it's a little more complex than this, but basically we work with the five elements. We get this communication happening between our own five elemental consciousness. Maybe I'll talk about this in a moment, and get some harmony here. And so it's about kind of coupling these polarities to neutralize them. This is an oversimplification of a more complex process, but just to make things simple. So we convert our five elements back into this pure yin-yang essence in our core channel, Sushumna, Chongmai, and then we further couple and neutralize these pure yin-yang within our own bodies to open up this portal to oneness, to become essentially neutral again, neutral force. All right, so I know it give you a little heady, a bit, whatever, but again, it's a practical model. It's like we came from here and went through this whole process of incredible separation polarity. So it's like, how do we reverse the polarity to get back into the state of bliss and love and connection, man? Peace, bro. You know what I mean? So there you go. That's the Dao cosmology. You don't have to understand or care about this, but it's an interesting model to work with, okay? Now, where are we at? Now, maybe this will be a bit more practical, because here's one of the process that's happening in your body. So again, here's Bob, okay? And initially, maybe like a lot of us, Bob really liked to ejaculate, right? So he's just skeet shooting this jing out of his penis like there's no tomorrow, and it's been drying him up. He was born with this Dantian, but he's emptied it. He's emptied it out. He's emptied his jing out by just busting a few too many nuts. We've all been there. It's okay, Bob. It's okay, Bob. Well, Bob decides, hey, enough of this shit. I want to be one with the Tao. So let's stop ejaculating so much, okay? Now, I probably shouldn't have even drawn these things here. Let me erase this. It's fine. Okay, because all that ejaculation dissipated his lower Dantian. He has no collection point. He has no Jing to store to open up the channel system. Well, he stops busting nuts, at least frequently, right? You guys maybe seen my video on semen retention timeline, where it's not an everything or nothing thing. The idea is you're building up more energy than you're spending, and that's how you rebuild your Jing. So he goes, we'll say he's ejaculating once a month, okay? Once a month, maybe, whatever. It's not, anyways. And now his lower Dantian is starting to build. He's also doing, the Dantian practices that we do. And so this field of energy is starting to build. So it's becoming, it's developing this magnetism. Instead of his energy constantly being pulled out of him, like, oh, I just want to ejaculate all the time. Now he's developing this magnetic field so that his energy wants to remain inside of him. And as he continues to cultivate it, builds and builds and builds, it starts to overflow into his channel system, opening up these various energy channels of the body. There's many different channels. We don't get too in depth into them. The most simple one and the basic one is the microcosmic orbit, up the back, down the front. Now, as he continues it's really a Neigong or Neidon, which is internal alchemy process. He furthered this energy in his lower Dantian, this raw Jing, starts to be transformed into qi, and it's flowing through his channels. He has more creativity. He feels more inspired. He feels more drive, more productivity, and something amazing happens. His middle Dantian starts to form and come online. The heart center, and he feels a greater sense of love, a greater sense of connection to himself. He feels a purpose in the world. He creates beautiful works of art. He communicates with people through speech, through blog posts, through social media videos, whatever, in a way that inspires and uplifts people. And he's like, you know what? There's more to life than just sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. There's more to life than just sniffing cocaine and having sex with sex robots and AI girlfriends. People are like, what? You're right, Bob. You're changing my life. So his heart Dantian's online. He's just beaming this positivity out into the world. His chi is radiating around him. It's not depleting him, because it's an overflowing. It's like the light bulb's glowing and the light's it's going out. That's what happens, all right? Or his fire is burning, and but he's got enough Jing to keep fueling that fire. And Bob keeps cultivating even more. And he's feeling great. He's, maybe he's 4 or 5 years, 10 years, whatever, into his process, and something even more miraculous happens. His upper Dantian comes online. His Bai Hui crown opens up. His third eye opens, activates, energizes, and he starts to be connected to higher dimensions. He starts to just get intuitive hits about things. Like information just comes into his mind. He's like, well, where did that come from? That's very interesting. I just got this I got this design for a device that will cure diseases or whatever, things like this. Or like, I'm getting this intuitive hit that I need to do this thing next. And he's like, I need to go to Whole Foods right now. And he goes to Whole Foods and he meets a friend he hasn't seen in 5 years. He's like, Bob, what have you been doing? He's like, well, man, I'm doing this sexual kung fu practice, man. I'm feeling real spiritual, bro. And he's like, bro, that's awesome. Like, I've got this festival coming up. You want to teach about this? He's like, yeah, man. So he teaches at this festival, and he changes the lives of 500 people. And now they all start going through this process as well. So Bob's tuned in, and he realizes at this point that he doesn't need to have a person outside of him that he's always asking, like, what should I do? What do I do with my life? What do I do next? Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Because he's connected to, we could say, these kind of higher fields, these higher fields of consciousness that he came from. He's now tuned into them because his energy system's open and pumping, and his whole body's energized. And again, the root of this was he was no longer just recklessly discarding this Jing, because the Jing becomes the fuel for this whole process. That Jing transmutes into qi. It's radiating, transmutes into shen. He's having this incredible spiritual connection. He's existing in multiple dimensions at once. And he transcends the just fucking, I just need to get a job and like pay rent and like, holy shit, I'm just gonna like, you know, play Fortnite all weekend and take edibles just to like forget about what happened. No, he's living a higher quality life. He's tuning into the Tao. He's contributing to the world, changing people's lives. All right. So this is what happens. This is the path. This is the path of, you could say this is sexual energy transmutation, but it's a bit more than that. It's internal alchemy. And it goes deeper and deeper than this, but I think this is it's a good model, right? Okay. I think that's enough. I've just unloaded a whole, decades of work upon you guys. So now go practice. Now go train. All right. So basically, yeah, this is the whole one of the whole purposes of sexual kung fu is just to get to this point. So this whole point, and because again, the biggest fragmentation of human consciousness in the world is an imbalance in sexuality. I meet a lot of people who are like, they're well into a spiritual path and they're very spiritually aware, but they're still just totally stuck in this energy center. And when your jing is compromised by excessive ejaculation, you're always going to hit a brick wall in your practice. Now, it is also important to, I talked about this in, I think it was the last live I did, where I was talking about rebuilding your jing and how to do that, because that's important. And it's more than just ejaculation that dispels this. Excess, I think the next contender for biggest drain on a man's jing and life force next to excessive ejaculation is excessive thinking. Worry, stress, just over-engaged mind depletes your jing. So, okay. And I guess to give you guys something practical, it's like, where the hell do you begin with all this? Now, this is, of course, what I teach is a system. I teach a system. And the core of the sexual kung fu trainings are my multi-orgasmic man program, which I open registration periodically because I want to have a nice group container going for it. If you're on my email list, which you are on, if you get my free ejaculation control course, which is, there's a link to all my videos, my Instagram bio, that's how you get on my email list. Plus, that's a great training that every man needs to go through. And then, but as far as like the more alchemical work though, really getting this lower, you want to really get this lower Dantian field established and pumping. If you want to be a cultivator, if you're interested in energetic development in this whole process I'm talking about, you got to start by building lower Dantian. And I have a Dantian development program that teaches you exactly how to do this, which also starts to transmute your sexual energy. So you put it into something, put it into building your Dantian field instead of driving you to jerk off to AI girlfriends. So I'm offering a discount on it over this weekend. So there's a link to that in my to the Dantian course in this YouTube live video. Using those of you on Instagram, I don't know if it's in my bio. Just go to my website, jonathanwhitelifestyle.com, find the Dantian development program, or go to my YouTube, Sexual Kung Fu, click on this live video and find the link there and get your Dantian building, my friends. And I have to say how badass it is to start working with lower Dantian. Okay, you want to talk about Qigong and internal energy? Because what a lot of people are teaching, and they're calling Qigong and Neigong, is like, it's like how to stretch your arms and breathe while imagining starlight energies entering your body. It feels nice. It's fun. It's a cool little, break, but 90% of the stuff out there is not going to build chi. All right. When you get the Dantian pumping, you know it. It's tangible. It's this, like, you start to feel like there's this heat. There's this radioactive, pulsating, bubbling field of hot lava in your belly. That's literally what the Dantian feels like when it starts to activate. It's very tangible. At that point, you have zero question in your mind. Is chi energy real or not? Because it's there and it starts to pump through your channel system. It's like, it starts to move your physical body as well. Like crazy shit starts to happen. So yeah, you want to start the process, Dantian development program. Okay, so I'm going to get into your guys' questions now. And really quickly, I just want to give you guys a couple updates of my personal life. What have I been up to? Again, it's been an incredible year. It's been a very challenging year in some ways, but overall, it's been a fantastic year. Let's see. June, I went to Mexico for, I'm part of a business mastermind training group. And so I had spend a week in Mexico. And it was great. It was fantastic. But I got the, Montezuma's revenge. I had terrible diarrhea for a week. Like just, it wouldn't stop. It was awful. It was awful. Very unpleasant experience. But then I recovered and it was solid. Okay. It was a good cleanse. Lost like 10 pounds on that one. July, I spent just training with teachers. It was fantastic. Just something I like to do in the summer. There's like a few teachers I'm ongoing training with, and I'm always like, who else can I like study and learn some like really cool shit from? Because like, I'm a student. I'm still a student. I am a student of the art, and I'm never going to stop my own training and development. Like, I'm not content to be like, oh, I know it all now. Like, hell no. I'm still a beginner as far as I'm concerned. So I'm always like up-leveling my own practice. It's like until I'm like shooting lightning bolts out of my hand, levitating and like teleporting to fucking Jupiter, I still have more to learn. Okay. So went to study with my Temple Tai Chi teacher, Gary Kleiman, who is quite a character, hell of a guy, great guy. Always completely kicks my ass, destroys me. Temple Tai Chi is very vigorous, very vigorous, not for the faint of hearted. High failure rate in this system. But man, what a fun time. Down in Chicago, stayed in Oak Park. What a beautiful area. Walking around these big mature trees. I'm just like, I'm feeling the chi. It's nice, fantastic. And then I went over to Kentucky after that to study with Andrew McCart, who's a healing Tao instructor. Really awesome dude. Really awesome guy. We're doing a lot of just grounding practices, just getting earth chi pumping through the body. A lot of fun. So that was cool. And then spent 2 weeks internal alchemy retreat, just going deep, all the stuff I'm telling you guys about, just deep into it. Fantastic. We're sitting here, meditating. I'm meditating on the heart center, and I start to have this heart orgasm, just this like intense, blissful love feeling. But it's also like, the spasming in your genitals when you're having like an ejaculation. It's like that feeling in my heart. So I was like, oh God, it feels so good. So it was nice. What else? I taught a workshop in Boise, Idaho, where I'm from. Lived in Boise most of my life. That was a lot of fun. Had really awesome guys come out to that. Again, I always say this, but you guys are awesome. All of you guys into sexual kung fu, you're the coolest people. You're the coolest people in the world. You're all doing really cool shit, and it's just like it's always just awesome to meet you, hang out with you, and like just hear everyone's story, hear what they're doing. So thanks, you guys know who you are. Who came to that workshop? That was a lot of fun. I've had my ongoing Tian Shan Neigong class series, which has been amazing, crushing it. We just did the 5th class out of 6 classes yesterday, so that was a lot of fun. Tian Shan is cool stuff. And then finally, my book is coming out very soon. I'm super excited about it. I know I said, some of you may have heard, I was intending it to be released kind of August, September. We're obviously nearing October at this point. And of course, writing a book, it's the most difficult project I've ever done. Okay, writing a book is no joke. It's very stressful. Like for me, just like being on a computer and just like information in my head, it just like it's a lot. It's a lot for me. But it's basically done. I'm putting some refinements right now on it. Really excited that one of my teachers, who's a bit of a legend in some aspects of Daoist practice, he's writing a foreword for the book, and he's kind of helped me with some of the just the final edits of it. So super pumped. But it will be coming out very soon. The working title is Tao of Male Sexual Mastery. Oh yeah, it's good. It's going to be the new standard for sexual kung fu and like male sexual practice, like standard. All right. Okay, I think that's it. That's me, guys. But what about you? What have you guys been up to? All right, let's get the comments now. Let's see what's going on. What questions we have? Feel free to type your questions in. And I can't even believe I haven't done this yet, but I'm gonna pour myself some. We have not only dandelion root coffee. I put a little marshmallow root in there as well. I just got onto hitting the marshmallow root with my dandelion. Marshmallow plant grows very deep roots. It sends these roots way down to find water, and energetically, you drink that, and you too may develop a root and be grounded, my son. Delicious. Action Figure 10 says, hi, Jonathan. Thanks for your work. You mentioned Newman K. Lin. I know him from the anal breathing method. Yeah, he had the best. Well, okay, let me finish. Okay, so anal breathing method, Newman K. Lin. Is this part of your course, and what is your perspective on it? So yeah, I love when people bring up Dr. Lin. Hell of a guy, absolute legend in sexual kung fu. In a weird corner of the internet in like the 2000s. I mean, really up to 2000. Well, till he died a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. And all of his information is basically completely gone now. Website's down. He had this massive archive. I mean, it was not an easy website to navigate. It was just like, it gave me a headache every time I was on there. It was just like run-on sentences and like a million links. Every link open to a page with a million links on it, and it was a lot to navigate. But I spent years and years absorbing some of his material. It was difficult for me to understand in the beginning, but I learned a lot from him. So yeah, his primary method he called anal breathing, which again took me years to figure out what the hell is actually going on with that. And basically, yes, I do teach that. I learned the method. I got it working, and I implemented it into my multi-orgasmic man program, basically. But I call it, it's part of my orgasmic breathing practice. Anal breathing's cool, but I don't know, just not very sexy, is it? He came up with some great names for his practice, like anal breathing. There's like the the finger pliers method to give a woman an orgasm in 1 minute. Dr. Lin, rest in peace. Awesome, perfect loop. Glad you resonate. Training and retaining. Okay, Matt is asking me, Matt Peps, what's up, man? A question, what about women's sexual kung fu? Do you address it or know someone providing some guidance like you for women? Good question. Yeah, so obviously I pretty much 100% focus on men. It's always a little bit weird to me when like there's women who are teaching men's sexual practices and then like, men teaching women's sexual practices. It's like, I mean, I get overall like, yeah, I could teach women a lot about this work, but ultimately I think experiential, like someone without the experience, they can only give you theoretical information, and like theoretical information is only going to give you so far. You need to be, if you really want to learn something, you have to work with someone who's been there and done it. Otherwise, you're just, who fucking knows, But having said that, honestly, there are some women teaching practices that I personally, like Minka DeVos, she's in Canada. Overall, her stuff's really good. She teaches a lot of like female Daoist sexual practices, some Tantra stuff. Sashi Saluna, they both work together often. She teaches women's practices as well. They do like very intensive trainings. As far as other, I can't really speak on other women teaching these things. So yeah. Okay, and Makav is asking, how does Dantian Neigong system compare to Michael Wynn's, and how do you integrate them? So this is basically, all right, let me be careful how I phrase this. Something I feel that was not properly focused on in the Healing Tao system is Dantian work. And it's not that it's not there. It just was never emphasized in the way I feel it should be by teachers of that system. For example, Michael Wynn teaches counterforce breathing, which is a fantastic practice that will build your lower Dantian. But what I didn't realize is Dantian work takes a lot of consistency and intention and like just focusing on the Dantian for hours. It takes a while to really build that lower Dantian field. Now, when I didn't fully establish my Dantian until 2019, and I had been training Qigong for 5 years at that point. It just was never framed in the way of like, it was always talked about. It's always like, yeah, the Dantian and Dantian, like, yeah, they talk about it all the time, but a lot of systems just didn't give me the actual method to really build the Dantian tangibly like I'm talking about. All right. So I studied with a teacher starting in 2019, very obscure kind of fringe teacher of very powerful Neigong practices, very interesting stuff. I, this dude's whole nother realm. This guy's working on, and I've kind of continued to study with him since then. Um, but gave me this Dantian technique and was like, do it for an hour a day. And I'm like, all right. And so I spent 3 months doing it for an hour every single day, an hour just with my mind and my lower Dantian doing this Dantian practice. And pretty quickly started to build the heat, the thickness, the bubbling, the of the Dantian. I was like, damn. So yeah, Dantian work, it is essential. It's essential. Like, because, and what I realized at that point is a lot of these other practices I was trying to do, like some of the more advanced internal alchemy practice I was doing, I was having results from this, having great results. But when the Dantian was online, everything just cranked up to 10. It was like my Qigong practice. My Qi was like fucking thick and super tangible. I'm like, oh, damn. And like, I do these internal alchemy practices and like things are lighting up in my body. My upper Dantian's buzzing. Everything just became very tangible. It's like, okay, obviously the lower Dantian, it's important to establish it to do a lot of the higher level like Neigong and internal alchemy. Those of you doing like just the pure sexual kung fu stuff, if you're like, I just want to learn how to have multiple orgasms, ejaculation control, and like, circulate my sexual energy through my body. You don't have to do the Dantian work in like great. You don't have to have a Dantian to do that stuff, basically. And I was pretty solid in my sexual kung fu practice without a fully established Dantian. But as far as like the other energetic processes, again, it just became way more efficient when working with the Dantian. And everything else in my Wind system really unlocked for me once I had the Dantian in place. Okay, someone, EOS is saying, tried entering my email, but I didn't get your free ebook. Sometimes there's like issues where it goes to like spam or promotions or, just try it again, try it with a different email. Okay, Nathan's asking, what are the core practice or practices that have helped you withstand the black hole of a woman's orgasm? Yeah, totally. So yeah, when a woman's going into orgasm, it just fucking starts to suck you in. I wouldn't say it was one single thing. It was just all the things like you're multi-orgasmic man is the things I teach in that program, just getting better and better and better at it. I will say the biggest thing for me is the ability just to let go and relax. Like that's kind of what my practice has distilled into is just relax, just sink the chi, release and open. That's the simplest of the simple in the sexual kung fu practice, but it takes a while to get there. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just like the more I can detach myself because it becomes the center of gravity. It starts to pull you into it. And as soon as you react to it, like when there's like the, oh shit, because that's typically what happens is the mind's, it's often your reaction to something that creates that response. Obviously her orgasm is having an effect, but it's the whole thing of like, it's kind of like this, like someone, I don't know, maybe someone's been like physically abused or like they have a strong, a lot of martial arts stuff. They've just been in a lot of fights. And if someone just kind of, moves like, oh, I'm getting something from my pocket quickly, they like flinch and they're ready to fight. Like, oh shit, their body just goes right into fight or flight defense mode. I think men tend to develop that sort of reflex around ejaculating, basically. I found that I had that very strongly and like, oh shit, is this going to make me ejaculate? I got to do something about it. So it's a very reactive type of thing. And it's interesting. A lot of the sexual kung fu work is simply mind, and like all these techniques help you get there because the mind and body are very connected. So when it's like, when you're in the state of like, it's a zone that you get into, it's like you're in sex god mode. You're just like, I fucking got this. There's a confidence. It's like you get in the zone to where, when things feel a bit too heated, you let go a little bit. You just relax, you breathe, you move the energy. And so it's really just this quality of like, it's an effortlessness, and it's an ability to not allow tension to overtake you. And it's going to be different day by day, but you continue your practice and you get there. And I will say something else though, that was one of my emergency things for a long time. And sometimes I still use it if I really need to, is if you take a breath, if you like pull in your lower belly, so just engage the abs and think of like pulling your belly in towards your kidneys. You kind of, hold the breath. That is a move that would prevent me from ejaculating when things got intense. So play with that. There's a huge training secret right there. Story work Alchemy is going back to work. Yeah, the lives are posted on my Instagram feed. They're also on my YouTube channel under the live section, Sexual Kung Fu YouTube. Okay, Makava is asking, how often do you do the primordial Qigong form from your primordial alchemy course? Yeah, so this is a badass form, very magical form that supposedly was created by, I'm blanking the name, Tai Chi man, Zhang Sanfeng, the Daoist immortal who supposedly created Tai Chi. That he created this form as like a spiritual cultivation form. It's a badass form, had all kinds of very mystical, crazy experiences, some unbelievable things, like pulling $500 out under my pillow after doing it. Just crazy shit like that. And that's not like, if you do that, it's going to happen. This was just like crazy, once in a lifetime manifestation type experience. I'm still like, how the hell did that happen? Anyways, it's a cool form, and I teach that, my primordial alchemy course, which is on my website. How often do I do it? It varies. When I first learned it, I did it every day for probably 2 years. Because when I learn something new, I'm like, I do it extremely consistently just to see what it does for me, and then I get a feel for like what are the effects of it, and then later on I'll add it into my practice when I feel like I need it. So I go through phases with it. Like I was doing it a lot this summer. I haven't been doing it as much the past couple weeks. But yeah, it's just kind of, here's the thing. I'm studying in 3 different systems, like full on intensely. I've learned probably more than 30, 40 Qigong forms. I'm not even joking. I'm not being egotistical, but I've literally forgotten more about I've forgotten more Qigong and Neigong forms than most people will ever learn. And ultimately what you realize is that the form itself is just a training tool to be able to, it's activating and training in a specific quality in your mind, your body, your energy body. And I can lay on the ground. I can just lay on the ground and get chi engaged 100 times more powerfully than I could have 5 or 6 years ago using movement practices, standing practices, whatever. So, yeah, having said that, I do primordial Qigong whenever I feel, number one is like manifesting something. If I want to create like a big shift in my life in some way, maybe it's like a mental thing, a physical situation, whatever it is, primordial Qigong I will use. It's also a nice like ceremonial form. I'll do it on equinoxes and solstices. So I'm going to do primordial this upcoming autumn equinox, which is a good time to like just tune into the new energy, the element that's coming in. We're moving into metal element for autumn here in the North Hemisphere, which is my favorite time of year. I love the autumn. It just feels very refreshing. I'm wood dominant, a lot of wood energy, a lot of wood element. It can be a lot. It can be a lot to manage. I have a shitload of wood. But the metal in the control cycle, metal cuts the wood, so metal controls wood. So because there's a uprising in metal, I just really feel balanced because my wood kind of settles down. Just like thank God. That's how I feel when we go into autumn. It just feels fantastic. Plus, I live in a really beautiful area here in North Carolina. We get people come here to look at the leaves turning in the autumn. They call them leaf peepers. Mike Dunn says, can you do a video on your experience with the Angion methods, please? Yeah, that's a great idea. Angion method is fucking awesome. I've made some big gains in my Angion practices the past few months. Also, what is your view on reincarnation? You only got one shot, guys. After this, it's an infinite, eternal black void of nothingness. I'm sorry to tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, what I will say is that, again, they're just, we are infinite beings. Like, I remember this was something really cool I experienced. First time I took psilocybin mushrooms, and I was like 19 years old, and just had this incredible, you know, universal oneness, stereotypical hippie experience on psychedelics. It was fantastic. Anyways, but one thing I realized is like, oh, like, this is what it's like to die. Like, it's just a complete release of all this, all the things I knew, all the things I was holding on to, just this, boom. This is what it's like to die. It's going to be blissful. And death is not the end. It's like our consciousness is infinite. Here's another area I was going to go. If you've ever had an out-of-body experience, astral projection, even like lucid dreaming, I mean, it was kind of a game changer for me, because I'm experiencing, I'm in another dimension, I'm in an astral plane, but like, I have this body and it feels just as real as the one I have right now. It's a little different, it's a little more fluid, but it's just as real. In fact, maybe even more real, more intense, and like brighter colors, more intense sounds. Everything's just a bit cranked up in those other planes. And I'm not in my body. I'm having this other experience. And then wake up in my bed or come back into my body, and it's just, it changes you. You're like, okay, of course, this isn't based on the body. It's funny how, we've been conditioned with this view that like consciousness is like coming from the brain. Like, yeah, the body is generating consciousness and blah, 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 blah. But then there's all these phenomena they can't possibly explain. Like when people get organ transplants, they have the memories from the person who had them. Like they've solved murder cases because, people who got the organs from the victim led them to the killer because they had it in their consciousness. So like all these things show us that we're not bound by our life in this physical body. Obviously, there's something else out there. It's obvious. Having said that, do I believe in reincarnation? Like, I don't know the exactities of it. I can't. No one knows. No one fucking knows what's going to happen until they die. You know what I mean? Which is kind of a mystery, but also it's a little exciting as well. Death is the next journey. I'm totally cool with it. But I don't know. I don't know what happens. Like people, especially in the spiritual scene, they tend to get really hung up on like past life stuff. Like, oh, in my past life, definitely this, definitely that, and like, well, that's why I have this problem now. It's my past life, so I'm just screwed. Which is like, it becomes this whole thing of like people are always looking. We humans, we always love to like find a story and like connect dots, and often we just create these like we often just put more baggage on ourselves. It's like, well, now it's a past life issue, so I can't solve it from just immediate things. So it's really a really complicated spiritual issue for me. It's like it just becomes this mental thing that like drills the pattern in more and more. So in that regard, I'm not that concerned about past lives. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm sure that there was, but it's also like, how do you discern what was your past life versus like, this is just like a genetic memory that's in my DNA that's coming in, or this is like a field from the collective consciousness coming in. The average person is not going to be able to discern these different things. And so there's a lot of space for delusion, which is why I'm like, why does it matter? I'm here, I'm now, this is all that there is right now. So it's like, this is where your focus should be. But again, I don't think that death is the end, and it makes sense to me that we would like come back into bodies here if we choose. I like to think that there's a little bit of I like to think there's a little bit of a vacation. Like I want to just party in the higher dimensions and like, like again, coming back to like lucid dreaming, where you can just create anything with your mind. Like when I was really into lucid dreaming in my early 20s, I remember like I got really good at it, and I would like all night I'd be like building cities and like flying through the clouds, just exploring all these realms. Incredible. So I hope I get a little bit of that after I die. Okay. But if, again, coming back to what I was talking about earlier, all this stuff, one of the goals of of course, the goal of Taoist cultivation is immortality, which isn't necessarily that you're living in a physical body forever, but it's that your Jing, Qi, Shen, all this is so strong and consolidated. Your consciousness, because if the theory is that if your consciousness is very fragmented, then at death you become fragmented, and you as an individual just kind of dissolve. And like, okay, well, that's that. And of course, your energies reintegrated, and you become something new, but you basically lose all memory and everything at the point of death. Versus spiritual immortality is that you have so much integrity in your being, the essence of who you are, your personality, your organ information, is consolidated into an energy body that keeps living on, keeps creating in other realms after death. It's the idea of Taoist immortality. Is it true or not? I don't know. There's all kinds of incredible tales of immortals, things like that in China, and I'm open to it. I'm working for it. I'm working towards it. Definitely. If nothing else, I'm going to age very gracefully. So that's enough for me to keep going. Okay, Eduardo, what's up, Eduardo? He says that sexual arousal tightens both my pelvic floor and my abdomen, making deep abdominal breathing difficult. Is there a practice to release abdominal tension? So this is like the diaphragm right under the ribs here. When this becomes constricted, it feels more difficult to breathe. So freeing up this area, man, this area relates to the liver very much. Liver and diaphragm are very, very connected. So, and a lot of people have, stress, emotional congestion, and that it gets stuck in the diaphragm. So it's an area I'm constantly having to work with. For me, the most helpful thing is just as like ongoing day-to-day maintenance. Of course, like deep, deep breathing, like pranayama type practices that really stretched out. That's helpful. But one of the most helpful things for me has been to I'll just lay on my back, lay on the ground, and I'll really relax. Like how relaxed can my breathing be? Even if my breathing is a bit, technically more shallow, but very relaxed and effortless. And I just really absorb my awareness into the diaphragm, and I smile to it. I love it. I accept it, and just really feel into it. And just notice how, as you're breathing, just putting your attention into it, it'll start to soften up a little bit. It'll start to release. And you can even, things get really deep. In like a practice I do a lot, it's called inner dissolving. And it's a really cool practice, because if you have any aches, pains, tension patterns, you can actually use these as areas to enter into your energy body with. It's a practice I learned from Bruce Francis. A practical book for getting started on this is it's called, I have it right here, I think, but it's called Opening the Energy Gates of Your Body. He teaches the outer dissolving method, which is kind of the starting point for it. So it's fantastic. Basically, you're just you feel any area in the body. And again, area that's pain, tense, stuck, and you just you absorb your mind into it. And I think of it as my mind is hands, and that area is like an ice cube, right? It's kind of stuck and tense. So it's I wrap my mind around it like hands holding an ice cube, and then that ice cube starts to melt. My consciousness starts to melt that blockage. And sometimes it takes 10, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes it takes 1 minute. There's blockages I've been working with for years that have changed and transformed, and there's information constantly coming out of it, and it just gets deeper and deeper. So yeah, hope there's something there that's helpful. Another thing that can be really helpful is self-massage. There's a practice called Chi Ne Song, which is an abdominal massage. Basically, you just take your fingers, put them all together like this, and just press into the belly, around the navel, the whole abdominal area, right under the diaphragm, even up into the diaphragm. Just you can really press up in there. It's a little uncomfortable, but that helps to release some of this tension. And that will also help release pelvic floor tension, because the tendon, the fascia, tendon, tissue connects to the belly. Hicks Gate says, my Qigong practice is growing so much. The power is tangible. Consistency is key. That's awesome, brother. Yeah, consistency is everything with this work. Okay. Matt Preps is asking, do you cover the Dantian cultivation and the immortal energy arts courses, or is it different? Yeah, I do. This is kind of a, I haven't talked about the immortal energy arts in a while. It's 'cause I'm not actively adding new material in there right now. But it's something I started years ago. Just pure Neigong, pure internal energy training. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of badass stuff in there. There's like, you can spend 5 years, 10 years working with the material in there. But yeah, I do cover like basically everything you need for the Dantian work in there. Robin Hermans is asking where to start with these practices. I think I addressed that, but again, for like all this kind of alchemical work, the Dantian course is a good starting point. I'm going to do some other levels of training, like the Tianshan Neigong, which I'm still finishing up that class series, and it'll be open to the public as well, just the recordings, and be a course. That is a pretty complete Neigong system, because with that you're activating all the Dantians, and that therefore opens up the channel system once you really pressurize the chi in there. You also learn how to open the crown, use your hands to like scan the environment, exchange energy with trees, with the sun, all kinds of cool shit that I teach in that program. It's pretty badass. So it's a complete Neigong system. All this will happen with Tianshan Neigong, but it takes a while, but it'll get there. Instagram's reporting sound issues. Yeah, it's probably my microphone rubbing on my neck. I'm doing my best, Instagram. Monoverso is asking, best ways to release pelvic tension and accumulated stress in that zone. Just knock something over here. Pelvic floor stretches. I have some routines on my YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube, look for sexual kung fu, pelvic floor routine. I released a new one recently. That's going to be the main thing. You do those consistently. Breathing, like proper breathing fully from your abdomen will kind of stretch, engage, and release the pelvic floor and prevent it from getting extremely tense. So those doing reverse Kegels as well. Again, I have a video on reverse Kegels on YouTube, sexual kung fu reverse Kegels. Those alone will be extremely, extremely valuable. And then you get more nuance with things like strengthening, like the glutes, and hamstrings. A lot of people are very anterior chain dominant, which creates imbalances in the pelvic floor, anterior pelvic tilt. So strengthening your posterior chain, your glutes and your hamstrings, your spinal erectors will help so that the pelvic floor is not acting as a stabilizer muscle, which is not meant to be. Good like abdominal core strength as well. Really helpful for that. Hicks Gate says, Jonathan, do you plan to continue doing Qigong flow videos? I feel yours are the most powerful on YouTube. I'm not surprised, because the majority of Qigong you're going to see on YouTube is garbage, complete garbage. Just wave your arms around, feel nice, and I'm relaxed. I'm at one with the Tao, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's cool. And I started there, of course, but like, again, Qigong and Neigong, the actual practices it's very rare to find someone who actually knows how to cultivate Qi in these arts. So yeah, good to hear, and I'm not surprised. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are loving the Qigong flows, I'll be happy to make more. I might be making a new like Zhan Zhuang video, which is the core of Qigong practice. Okay, Makava's asking, do you ever consult the I Ching or astrology, Chinese or Vedic or both? Yeah, I don't work with the I Ching a whole lot. I probably should. Just, I haven't, But astrology, I am interested in Chinese astrology. Was it 2 years ago? I had my Chinese astrology chart done, and it was very insightful for me. Like I've had like Vedic astrology done for me, and it was like, yeah, sure, okay. I've never been super into that for whatever reason. Not saying that it's not, it's definitely legit. Like again, sometimes I'm just going through something in my life. There's just like a week that's like really something's, we all have those weeks. And my wife's like reading me the astrology thing. I'm like, it's like exactly what I'm going through. I'm like, okay, yeah, obviously there's something to this. But Chinese astrology was very valuable to me because that's how I discovered that my dominant element is wood. And it's really obvious, like looking at the elements and my own like constitutional patterns. So yeah, my wood is like 60% of my elemental constitution is wood at birth. The fire element was very low. Earth was decent, but my wood tends to constrain my earth. So it's like we all have these constitutional patterns. Talking about 5 elements, we're all born with a different elemental quality. And some people have a very balanced chart. Some people, they have a ton of one element and little of the other, which is good because it gives you a lot. You have a lot of strengths in that, and just learning how to like work with those elements to balance things out. If you're interested in learning your Chinese astrology, Michael Wynn had a really great calculator on his website, but I don't think it works right now. There might be one on Montauk Chia's Universal Healing Tao website. If you look up Montauk Chia Chinese astrology chart, it might give you one. And with those, they give you a lot of things you're not going to understand, but you will get like it'll like 5 element different percentages. That's how you know, like, okay, at birth, this is likely the element I was strongest with. And of course, your own free will and life's journey will, those elements will change, but usually you can have a good idea of like, oh yeah, I'm definitely, strong metal, strong wood, earth, whatever it is. Matt Prep says there doesn't seem to exist an equivalent to you for women in sexual kung fu yet. Yeah, well, I'm going to change that. Okay, I'm getting a sex change, and then I'll have a whole, I already have my whole career in men's sexual. I was like, I'm going to be Jonette White, women's sexual kung fu master. Like, I mean, it's a genius business move, but anyways. Okay, someone's asked me if I do personal private sessions. There's a possibility of working with me one-on-one, but a prerequisite is that you go through my Multi-Orgasmic Man program. Then you can apply to come in person and have a intensive with me, basically. Boy. Someone's asking if I've is this basically, will I create an OnlyFans to jerk off on camera and demonstrate the stuff in person? No, I'm not going to do that. Not my vibe. Unnecessary. Like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not. Yeah, there's other people who do that. That's the way they present this. It's fantastic. You can learn from them. I do things clothed personally. Just not interested in getting into that whole area. There's always a recurring joke on my team though. Of like, well, if all else fails, I can always do porn. I'm not going to. It's a joke that we have. I mean, there's really nothing to see. It's like it looks exactly the same, except internally I'm doing the things. And like, it's like, okay, now like drawing energy up your spine, it's not like you see me doing that. It's happening internally. So, but I understand. Some people it's like you want to be there with it while it's happening. It's fine. Okay, Sivan Lloyd Pack is asking, what tips would you give regarding drawing energy up the spine for non-ejaculatory orgasms in conjunction with self-cultivation? Like when starting out, is it good just to drop to the lower Dantian or the heart, or just breathe the full microcosmic orbit? Yeah, it's a good question. I would say a tip I would give is that you also have a strong Qigong practice, because 90% of the work you're going to do in sexual kung fu is done outside of the bedroom, outside of sexual practice, which is like qigong and opening up the energy channels. The people who really emphasize that get the best results. They develop much more quickly. But so the whole thing is, yeah, just the more open your system is, the better this is going to work. Okay, here's a tip. Engage the energy of your heart, loving, smiling energy. Because here's an interesting thing. Talking about 5 elements, the Daoist theory is that there's our soul, and then there's these 5 element, and they call them the organ spirits, or the Shen, that are basically these different layers of consciousness that's within our mind, body, energy, body. Because it's not just, people just like, oh, it's just me, it's just my mind. But why is it that your mind wants to do this, but also wants to do the opposite thing? Like, I love making the money, but I hate my job. And it's just like, we're often having like all these different conflicting desires and like ways that we're self-sabotaging ourselves. And the reason for this is that we have these 5 elemental energies, these different minds, these different layers of consciousness within ourselves. And the organs of the body are kind of the like physical housing of that Shen, that consciousness. And really it's existing in the whole field. But so this is where you get into like this emotion correlates to this organ and this season, etc. This is the 5 element thing. So why we practice the inner smile in these practices, why it's like one of the core practices I teach, is what that does is it gets everything connected. The inner smile is it's essentially this love and acceptance coming from your core self. It's coming from your soul. And that is communicating with these scattered areas of yourself. They're kind of like kids. They're like children. You've got this inner family that's having fights, and there's usually one person kind of taking control. Like, again, my wood element, my liver, is a real bully. He's just like kicking everyone else's ass and like locking him in the closet. So I have to like mitigate a lot what's happening internally. So we smile to everything, because when you're very fragmented, it's just a portion of your consciousness that's trying to make the thing happen. And you don't realize that there's all these like resistance happening from these other layers of your consciousness, these other elemental factors, and they're actually resisting the thing you're trying to do. So you're in struggle. And some people are living their whole lives in this area of struggle. So this is why you just smile to your whole body. Just quickly, I smile in my heart, my lungs, my kidneys, my liver, my stomach, my intestines, which again, it sounds really weird for most Westerners because we never even think about our organs. It's like, oh, it's just all the brain, man. It's all up here. Not exactly. Why did the ancient Egyptians only keep like the organs and they discarded the brain? Because the brain is just kind of like a computer processing everything, but actually there's a lot more information happening in the torso. So, long-winded answer to asking how to better draw sexual energy, but maybe this makes sense as to why when you smile, it brings this cohesion to your whole consciousness field. You smile, you activate that love, and you smile to your sexual energy. When it's very different to be just like, oh, come on, I'm horny, but I'm feeling pleasure. I just want to, come on, get this energy up the spine. It's very different than like, okay, I love myself, I accept myself, I love this beautiful sexual energy, and let's encourage it to integrate to the rest of the body. So when you have that love, that self-love in your sexual practice, it's going to dramatically change the quality of it, which is why I always start any sexual practice with the inner smile. It just opens everything up. I mean, there's a huge training tip right there that took me years and years to fully understand. Okay, when I first heard like inner smile, I'm like, this is weird, whatever. Okay, sure, yeah, smile to my liver. Okay, moving on. And then as far as the energy centers, yeah, I recommend, just try different things. It's good to start just with lower Dantian first because, it's immediately close to the genitals. Sometimes it's difficult to like get all the way up the spine or, up to the heart, but just try different things out and see what works for you. So it's really also about experimentation. This becomes your process as well. Matt Pep says, I practice your lower Dantian breathing while driving now. Hell yeah. It's great. It's like, yeah, when you're driving, obviously only if, you should not do Neigong while operating heavy machinery, but if you can stay very focused and, just to use a little peripheral awareness, yeah, I'm always cultivating on the road. It's all kinds of shit. It's like ABC, always be cultivating 24/7. All right, a couple interesting questions here. I like it. I like it. Okay, we'll start with this one. EO says, my question to you, are women able to feel if you have a developed Dantian or an experienced energy cultivator? Does it increase subconscious or conscious attraction? Yeah, women definitely feel it. They definitely feel it. Kind of there's this whole like, oh, women smell the retention on you. And there's a lot of truth to this. Like when you're a man and you're not ejaculating all the time, you're definitely going to be overall more attractive to a woman. You just have more life force in you. Simple as that. And there's like the pheromones and all these things, but it's really just like there's this magnetism to it. And I mean, it's an interesting question in that, like the Dantian specifically. And I imagine because the Dantian is Jing, you've got to have this Jing. That's what gives it the thickness and the magnetism that, like, again, it's a very tangible thing. When that thing's rolling over, you're like feeling like your intestines are spasming and squirming. It's powerful. There's some serious like magnetic yin chi pumping in there. I imagine, and it does thicken your energy field. Like I remember a few years ago, I met up with a guy, and he's just saying like, he's like, what are you doing? It's like your energy field. It's like, I felt it when you walk in the room. Like, I don't know, bro. I'm doing a lot of shit. Like, let me pull out my list of what I'm doing every day. So yeah, they'll definitely feel you, but don't worry about it. Don't make it about them. Like there's a lot of guys, well, not a lot, but sometimes men will comment and be like, I've been doing semen retention, but it's not attracting women. And it's like, it's not everything. Like probably there's some, often it's like nice guy syndrome type of stuff. You're just not in like your masculine polarity. And semen retention isn't going to do it for everyone. It's not a fix all, be all, cure all. It's just you're stopping a leak and you have more energy and you're feeling what it actually feels like to no longer be depleted. That's what semen retention does for you. And some people call that having superpowers. It's just how you're supposed to feel as a human being. Okay, Nathan's saying, are you able to share what your weekly Qigong practice looks like with all the new practices you've learned over the years? Are you constantly practicing new things, or are there a few staples? Yeah, great question, and I'm happy to share this. So yeah, as I've mentioned, I'm training in 3 different systems, plus a lot of extracurricular things I'm always kind of taking in here and there. So there's always certain things I'm focusing on. I try to have like a monthly theme and like a weekly theme. And of course there's like long-term, you gotta have goals. It's like, if I'm on this journey, there's gotta be some kind of a destination. Otherwise I'm just gonna like walk in circles. Like I see some people who like, they're always trying new things. It's like, oh, I tried this system and this system and this system and this system, but they only kind of dip their toes into it. It's like you're never gonna, it's like you get 20 books and you read the first chapter of them. It's like, okay, cool, but you're missing on a lot there. Wouldn't you rather read one really good story to the end than start 20 different ones? So similar thing in relationships too, right? So it's like, what is the intention? And again, mine's full-blown immortality, baby. And I want to shoot lightning out of my fingers. I want to fucking have telekinesis and all these things. But more importantly, I want deep spiritual connection. I want to like be able to travel and explore other dimensions. And most importantly, I want to have harmony and balance. Okay, because there is some practitioners. I think this was common in like a lot of the internal martial arts. There's these dudes that have crazy chi and they can do crazy shit, but they're angry as fuck. They're very imbalanced because all this chi is just amplifying their negative patterns because they're not refining the energy. They're just like building more and building more and building more. Fortunately, I've learned that before it became too exacerbated. So having harmonious, balanced chi is very important. I'm planning on doing a fusion of the 5 elements program, kind of like I've done my Dantian and my Tianshan class series. So I'm planning on doing one for fusion of the 5 elements, which is a really badass kind of Nadon internal alchemy practice that harmonizes your energy and defragments you. Okay. What my practice looks like right now, there's different things I'm focusing on, but standing practice is always a core. It's a core of my training, standing postures. I'm doing a lot of Santi Shi from Xingyi. Tai Chi postures sometimes, like, single leg work, Yi Chuang kind of stuff. So there's always like standing practice. Basically, I split my practice into standing, movement, and sitting. Okay, so I work more with principles than like, well, it's got to be this specific form. So I look at principles and what do I need, to keep building my chi and refining it and balancing it and everything. So standing, movement, and sitting. I've been doing a lot of bagua recently, bagua zhang, which is it's badass, it's super badass. It's walking. I mean, it's also martial arts. There's martial arts aspects to it, but I use it as neigong, just pure pumping, building chi in my system. So I'm doing a lot of bagua, tai chi as well. I've also been working on a specific qigong form I learned from Bruce Francis called Marriage of Heaven and Earth, which is incredible. It's like I took this, 2-month training on a single qigong movement. And at first I'm like, well, that seems like overkill, but there's so much happening internally. Qigong is very complex, as it turns out, So that's another thing I've been working on recently. So, and then my sitting practice, I'm always, there's a few different things. Always making sure I'm, consistently building chi in my lower Dantian. I'll every now and then I'll spend like a month or so where I'm just really, really working on the Dantian. I spent 3, 4, maybe 5 years intensively focusing on lower Dantian work. And then I was like, okay, I can kind of move on to other things too. So I'm working on full lotus, like adding more time to my full lotus, because it's when you get to more advanced stages, that's a very powerful, it's an asana, it really packs energy into your torso. And when I do lotus, I get hot. My body gets so hot, my legs start vibrating in like this like piezo electrical effect of just cooking the chi, and it's just pumping through my channels. Like I don't even need to like do any specific practices when I'm in full lotus. Like it just happens. What else have I been doing? Of course, alchemy, Nadon work, coupling polarities, neutralizing, opening up a portal to neutral force, absorbing that into my body, getting into my bones. So a lot of different things. Plus a lot of the sexual kung fu practices. Of course, I'm doing my orgasmic breathing. Did I even mention dragon breathing? Killer practice that I developed, which is in multi-orgasmic man. Obviously, there's a lot of shit that I'm doing, and many things I haven't even mentioned. But what I often do, like if I'm ever feeling like, fuck, there's so much. Again, I've learned a lot of stuff, and I'm still learning new things. So whenever I'm feeling like there's a bit much, I'll just write everything out. I'll be like, these are all the things that I want to do because I know these practices are extremely beneficial for me. Here's some things I'm also working on. And I look at my day and I'm like, okay, here's my schedule for the week. I practice about 3 hours a day. I know that is not doable for most people. I started with 10 minutes a day, okay? But now I'm like, I'm a cultivator, okay? So 3 hours a day, and I'm like, okay, well, sitting, moving, standing. Here's Monday, I do an A routine. Tuesday, I do a B routine. Sometimes I have like A routine, B routine, alternate day to day. Sometimes it's like ABC, it depends. So it's kind of like, it's really like bodybuilding. You've got to hit everything consistent enough to make development. And it's also good to like have some variety as well. Building an energy body really is like building muscle, except the good thing is that you're much less likely to overtrain. In some ways, you don't have to rest as much as you do with bodybuilding type of stuff. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, there's definitely staples. And that like lower Dantian work, I'm always coming back to that very frequently. And just standing practice, like just standing in Wu Ji. There's so much I can do just within that and get tremendous benefit from it. Nick says, how did you get so knowledgeable about this? I feel like I can't find anything else about this on the internet. See, that was the problem I had. And so I had to go on a journey of discovery and, started with books and videos. I mean, the biggest thing is just studying with teachers. You got to find someone who has it and study with them. Some things will never change. You're not going to learn, you're not going to become, I can't say, but very likely if you want to master something, you're going to need to go beyond just like internet research and like videos and things like that. And like, you got to really immerse yourself in the thing. That's what I've done the past 10 years of my life. I've been super immersed in all of this. And I've also been able to like, so there's both like, there's like a few core teachers that I've been studying with for many years. There's like, I'll find other teachers here and there just to like, I'll learn some, cool peripheral things from. So I'm always like, I want the whole picture. I feel like everyone has a piece of the puzzle and I'm just putting things together. I also read a lot. I've got a huge library of books and information, and I'm always like, not always, but I go through periods of research as well. Like every now and then I find like a new someone who's teaching things, some like super obscure teacher teaching some interesting things of like Negong, or maybe it's sexual components, whatever it is. It's very rarely people who have like a really big following. You know what I mean? It's usually the unknowns that I've gotten some of the best things from, and that's not necessarily the case. There's some teachers I've studied with who are very well known, and for a reason, because they're fantastic teachers. But there is a lot of like I have a Negong teacher, very obscure, not a public figure at all, but has some of the crazy shit I've ever learned that's incredibly powerful. Maybe some of it borderline dangerous. You know what I mean? Yeah, study and practice, 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 practice. I don't just read about this and like, oh, that's a nice concept. Like I do it, I experiment with it. You got to live it. Well, if you want to really, really go in depth into something, you guys don't have to be as intense and obsessed as I am with all this to like get good results from it. Okay, guys, I've gotta wrap this up. I'm just gonna pick a few more really relevant questions here. Oh yeah, asking about the sex god course. So I'm kind of restructuring some aspects of sexual kung fu right now, and I'm basically kind of my intention right now is to have sex god be like kind of like level 2 program, whereas multi-orgasmic man is like core level 1 sexual kung fu training, and sex god's going to be kind of like a continuation after that. So just a little bit of restructuring that's going to be happening, and that should hopefully be soon. I'll be letting you guys know about that, but yeah, the kind of the core, like if you're like, okay, I'm ready for like immersive sexual kung fu training, multi-orgasmic man is going to be, again, it's the obvious like full on entry point. There's also like the lower, male sexual mastery course is a really good starting point if you're just kind of like, yeah, this sounds good, but I don't know how deep I want to go into this. I just want to kind of dip my toes and like experience better sex, non-ejaculatory orgasms. That's a really great starting point. Multi-orgasmic man is like full on immersion in the sexual kung fu training system. So that's like the good, the starting point. And I open that program periodically throughout the year to have like a group going through it. And I'm basically intending that sex god is going to be, again, kind of like level 2 continuation from that. So I'm just kind of like structuring things around, and hopefully that will all be coming together very soon. So thank you for your patience. What do I suggest for a man at 24? Well, um, it's a good time to just, you're still young. You're still having fun and figuring out who you are. Uh, I feel like 24 is when I kind of started getting myself together. I started taking my life a bit more. I mean, I was always taking things seriously, but I was thinking a lot more long term of like, okay, where am I going with my life? I'm kind of tired of like spinning in circles. Like, where do I really want to get, and how am I going to get there? So it's a time to start, it's time to start taking things a little bit seriously, but not too seriously. You still have some, you still have some accidents to make. You still got some crises to go through. You still got some growth ahead of you, as I do. But yeah, so don't take things too seriously. But of course, cultivate yourself, cultivate your energy. It is a great time to start moving in the direction of like, where do you really want to go with your life? Like, what are you passionate about? And start looking into like how you can, pursue that. Okay. Mike Dunn's asking about the feeling, cultivating sexual energy versus chi itself. Are they separate things, or is it an arbitrary um, distinction? Well, I definitely don't think it's arbitrary, because activated sexual energy does have a very specific quality to it. As far as like the actual feeling of it, like what it feels like moving through my body, it doesn't always feel that much different than chi, except for, well, there's a more orgasmic, like it's pleasurable. It's a bit more pleasurable. Like, I mean, me just moving chi through my body, it is pleasurable, it is orgasmic, but when it's aroused sexual energy, it's a little juicier, it's a little thicker often, and it often has a stronger impact on my consciousness. Like when I circulate it to like a various organs, or when it goes up to my head and hits my pineal gland, it's like it's it's quite a bit more powerful than when I'm just doing regular day-to-day chi. Um, yeah. Cool, man. I'm glad that the distinction about going in a different direction with genital orgasm um, helped clear things up for you. Because again, that was something I was very confused about for a long time. And I just had to I had to reach that conclusion myself ultimately. Okay, Surya is asking about the Dantian. So there is a free Dantian breathing practice that I have on YouTube, which is a great technique. Like if you just do that technique, for Dantian, like you can build your Dantian with it, okay? But you got to do it very consistently. You got to put hours and hours and hours into it. In the Dantian course, I just go, there's a lot of nuance to it. Like again, you can just use that technique and like you'll get it eventually. But there is a lot of nuance to like building the lower Dantian. Specifically, what I teach in the Dantian course is how to really get your mind into that area, because that's the biggest challenge is like just kind of project your mind into there with force versus like actually sinking your consciousness into this region, because we're not used to being down there. And I also teach how to use your hands to intensify the building of energy in the lower Dantian region. You learn a Dantian Qigong practice that helps you really build Qi. And then there's a couple other supplementary practices like reverse breathing, true internal reverse breathing to compress and thicken the Qi in that region, as well as like drawing up your Jing, basically your sexual energy to substantiate and thicken that Dantian. So those are the things I'm teaching in the Dantian program, which again, I'm offering at a discount over this weekend as a good entry point into alchemical types of work. Can excess alcohol consumption interfere with Dantian development? Yes, definitely can. You don't want to be doing Qigong drunk. I don't, or under the influence of alcohol in general. It's not going to be great for you. I personally avoid alcohol 100%. I haven't had a drink in 10 years because there's no benefit to it in my experience, in my opinion, but obviously humans are, you want to have a drink here and there, it's fine. But I mean, if you're like drinking every day, you probably want to look at why that is. It's not healthy to drink every day. Alcohol is very estrogenic. Yeah, and it's definitely going to interfere. It tends to scatter your chi, scatter your energy. So yeah, in moderation, not a big deal. But like, yeah, if you're having drinks every day, it's probably going to hold back your progress. Gus is asking, semen retention and hairline. All I know is that some men who start losing their hair, it's because of too much Jing loss. And if they start retaining semen, sometimes they actually grow their hair back. I had a friend who this was the case. Now it's going to be different for every man. There's different factors into it. And then, yes, I do practice Tai Chi as well. I love Tai Chi. Can it work hand in hand with sexual Kung Fu? Yes and no. I mean, Tai Chi is not, it's very specific. It's very powerful practice. And what it will do is teach you a lot of like sensitivity. Like if you have real, true, good internal Tai Chi, you can build a lot of Chi and open up your body quite well. And as you develop Sung, the quality of relaxation and holding extended shape without excessive tension, really grounding, sinking your Chi, that actually does carry very well over into sexual practices. But as far as like circulating sexual energy and things like that, sure, you could focus on those things during Tai Chi, but you're probably better off doing the proper, like really just focusing on sexual Qigong and then Tai Chi as the practice that it is. Number one remedy for nocturnal emissions. A few things come to mind for me. Number one, don't allow your body to get too warm at night. That was always the biggest cause for me. If I had like a heavy blanket on and I got too hot in the night, nocturnal emission. Microcosmic orbit, testicle breathing, orgasmic breathing. doing that regularly. Pelvic floor relaxation, and then actually prostate massage. Because if you have a lot of built up prostate fluid, if you're having non-ejaculatory sexual experiences, um, it simply builds congestion in the prostate and it is released as an ejaculation, nocturnal emission. So internal prostate massage can actually dispel some of that fluid. Okay, last few questions here. I was asking, do I have any thoughts or experiences with the immortal fetus? I mean, this is what they talk about. The Daoist alchemical texts talk about the immortal fetus. They always use all these like metaphors and things. So it's like, what were they actually talking about? I suspect that I think it has to do with this. Once you develop a lot of, you really get your energy body online. Your energy body develops, and there is this like newness to you because what I was talking about earlier, getting rid of all of this like acquired mind, the person, the very polarized personality, rigid opinions and beliefs. When you start to shed that, you get back in the space of an inner child, and it's likely as well like you're starting to explore the astral realm, some of these like higher dimensions. When your energy body is becoming online, it's like it is kind of like being rebirthed into a new energetic experience. Something around that, I imagine, is what they were talking about with the immortal fetus. Do I have experience with it? I don't know. Again, it's difficult to say exactly what they were talking about, And like when you hear different people talk about it, they may be referring to different things. I don't get too hung up on like this kind of archaic terminology. It can be like a good guiding point, but some people just get really hung up and like, on concepts rather than the actual what's actually happening, the experience of it. And I'm more practical, just like I don't know. I'm doing this practice. There's some serious chi building, and I'm having like crazy, experiences where energy's blasting me, and like I'm connecting with other realms, and like, that's what I know I'm experiencing. Okay. Yeah. So if you're experiencing wet dreams every 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes it could just be like, hey, it's like a high sexual energy time. Your body wants to ejaculate more. And it can also be, again, the reasons I've talked about. Maybe there's like a lot of arousal. The energy is not properly circulated. There's a lot of pelvic floor tension. There's like congestion, irritation of the prostate. There could be a lot of different factors into this. And okay, Michael's asking if when doing the non-ejaculatory orgasm, is there still some oozing of semen or something you learn to control to do, dependability of how intense the orgasm is? I mean, it depends. Most, like the core practice I'm talking about of non-ejaculatory orgasm, there's not going to be a release of fluid. If you're using the method where you kind of near the point of no return and like stop just as you kind of start going into an orgasm, that is more of a like peak orgasm type of experience. And again, you can have truly dry orgasms with that. And sometimes a little bit of fluid will come out, like just kind of ooze out like you're talking about. Often it's just prostate fluid. And you won't really feel like a refractory period, which basically, if you're not having like a refractory period, you're probably doing all right overall. Nostalgia is asking, what is your experience with fusion of the 5 elements? Does it really balance the emotions as promised? Yeah, so it's funny because I've been working with this practice for a decade, 10 years, and it took me a while to really get it and understand it. That's why I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to teach it. I mean, I could have taught it years ago, and I have to some of my like, you'd say kind of inner door students, but the difficulty with fusion practice is that a lot of people, it just becomes this like mechanical thing. Like, okay, I'm imagining this happening. I'm imagining this energy moving here, and yeah, pull the emotion out. And it's a very yin practice. It's a very, like, you really have to get in touch with these organ spirits, this conscious, like really in touch with the elemental consciousness of it. Like there's the method where you set the ball going, just like, yeah, I'm just gonna fucking blend everything. And sometimes I found good results from that, but I found the most powerful to be really, I'll just say having a more yin. almost like a communication. It's you know, there's a lot of nuance into it. But basically, yes, in fact I had a very profound experience with fusion yesterday where I really knocked something loose and had this like just incredible, like, I feel fantastic, and just really got myself from a stress state to a very balanced, nice feeling place. Okay, so yeah, I'll be teaching that soon. Is it okay to use a flashlight when practicing? Sure, could be a good training tool. Just don't get overly attached to them. They often design those things to be way too stimulating. Training, retaining, awesome, brother. Glad you found this helpful, because yeah, a lot of people are. There's a lot of crap on. I mean, it's just like it's an attention thing for a lot of people. It's like, because it's a topic people are searching for. People just kind of like make videos like, yeah, I've been doing this. I just got into this, but yeah, man, there's everything you know about semen retention. It's like, it's kind of a fad for some people. It's like, are you going to see them talking about it in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Probably not. Okay. Yos is saying, how do you develop the flexibility to be able to meditate in lotus posture? A lot of stretching, whole lot of stretching. You can just look up like stretches to achieve full lotus. It's not something you want to force yourself into. You can injure yourself doing lotus when you're not ready for it. But those of you who are like, if you've got some chi, I don't think that, I mean, lotus in general, it's probably going to have good results in general. But people, if you actually have like some chi, like even just having your lower dantian established, like you do lotus, see what happens. See what happens. But yeah, you have to, a lot of hip flexibility to get there. So, take some time. It took me a while to be able to sit in lotus for like a period of time, and I'm still working on extending that duration. Martin, start with my free ejaculation control course, which is there's a link in my bio there on Instagram. Herbs for Lhasa Jing. Hisho Wu is one of the main ones. Hisho Wu, goji berries, saturated fats, pasture-raised meats, things like that. But the biggest thing for people is like less thinking, less screen time, and more just like, I'm in my body and I'm calm. Okay, my friends, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Good to hang out with you guys again. And again, the Dantian development program is on sale through the weekend. There's a link on this YouTube video. And I will see you guys soon. Take care.